I woke up on the porch, my whole body shaking from the cold. The porch swing I used to love was right beside me. My blanket, the one my husband Frank gave me, was just tossed over me. I tried to stand up, but my knees felt weak and old. How did I get out here? It was a cold Ohio morning and the sun was barely up. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. It was the feeling of being all alone. Friend, before I go on, let me ask you, would you do me a kindness? Tap subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from. It helps me see just how far my story reaches. The front door opened a tiny bit, then more. It was my daughter, Sarah. Her face was a mask of stone. No smile, no worry. "You're awake," she said, but it wasn't a question. Her voice was flat and cold, like a stranger's. I looked at her, my own daughter, the girl I raised in this very house, and I knew something was terribly wrong. Her eyes looked right through me. She didn't look like she saw her mother. She looked like she saw a problem. I opened my mouth to ask what was happening, but the words wouldn't come out. I just stood there, shivering, watching the person I love most in the world turn into a stranger. "Sarah, what's going on?" I finally managed to ask. My voice was just a whisper. I took a step toward the door, hoping she'd move aside and let me in. But she just stood there, blocking the way. A little yappy dog I'd never seen before ran out from behind her legs and started barking at me. "Be quiet, Lucy," she snapped at the dog. Then she looked back at me, her eyes still like chips of ice. "Look, Mum, the dogs need the bed more than you do." The words hit me harder than any fist ever could. "The dogs need the bed more than you do. My own daughter." She said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I just stared at her, and my heart broke right there in my chest. It was a cruel joke, but she wasn't laughing. She was dead serious. I could feel my face get hot, and my eyes started to sting. I had no idea what she was talking about. What dogs? My bed. Did she mean my own bed? In my own house? This was my home. The place where I raised her. The place where Frank and I built a life. I looked past her into the living room, and I saw 2 more dogs, big ones, running around. It felt like I was in a bad dream. I couldn't understand how my daughter could say something so ugly and mean. After what felt like forever, she finally stepped aside. I walked into the house, but it wasn't my house anymore. My big armchair, the one Frank bought me for our anniversary, was gone. In its place was a huge modern sofa I didn't recognize. The pictures on the wall were different too. Instead of my family photos, there were big paintings of flowers and landscapes. I walked into the kitchen, and all my pots and pans were gone. The countertops were clear, and there were fancy new appliances. It was like I had walked into a house on a TV show, not my own home in Ohio. A weird, unfamiliar smell was everywhere. Not the smell of my baking or my Frank's pipe tobacco, but the smell of some kind of dog cleaner. It made my stomach turn. I walked toward my bedroom door, the one I had shared with Frank for 40 years. It was closed. When I tried the handle, it was locked. "What are you doing, Sarah?" I asked, my voice shaky. "This is my room." She just shrugged. "It's not your room anymore, Mum. It's the dog's room. They need the space." My hands started to tremble. Everything I owned, all my memories, my clothes, my old books, they were all in there. My whole life was behind that locked door, and I was a stranger in my own home. I looked at Sarah, my daughter, and wondered if I even knew her at all. I walked around the house like a ghost, looking for something that was still mine. I opened a closet door in the hallway. Sarah's mess was everywhere, but in the back, behind a pile of old blankets, I saw a dusty cardboard box. It was a box I hadn't seen in years. It was mine. Inside, under some old tax papers, was a photo album. My heart jumped a little. I sat on the floor and opened it, hoping to see pictures of me and Frank, of Sarah when she was little, happy pictures from a long time ago. But the pictures inside weren't mine. They were of Frank, my Frank, but he was with a different family. A woman with bright red hair and two little boys who looked just like him. They were laughing in a park, sitting around a dinner table, opening Christmas presents. My hands started to shake so hard I almost dropped the album. Who were these people? Was this from before we met? No, the pictures were recent. The dates on the back were from just a few years ago. Frank was still alive then. My stomach twisted into a knot. I knew my husband. He was a good man, a family man. He wouldn't have a secret life, would he? I felt sick. This album wasn't just old photos. It was a secret I never knew about, a lie that was now staring me right in the face. It made me question everything I thought I knew about my life. My heart was pounding in my chest. I closed the photo album quickly and shoved it back in the box. I felt like I was losing my mind. First, Sarah turns against me, and now I find out my late husband, Frank, might have had a secret family. The air in the house felt heavy and cold. All I wanted was to go to my bedroom and lie down, to be in a place that felt like mine. But I knew the door to my room was still locked. I walked over to it and put my hand on the cool metal of the doorknob. This room wasn't just a room. It was the heart of my home. It held all the memories of Frank and me, the good and the bad. It held the photo of our wedding day, the quilt my mother made for me, and all my personal things. I tried the knob again, hoping it was just stuck, but it wouldn't turn. I rattled it a few times, but it stayed firm. It was like a giant wall that Sarah had put up between me and my life. I felt a wave of anger wash over me. She had no right to do this. I banged on the door. "Sarah, open this door, now!" I yelled. But there was no answer, just the silence of the house and the sound of the dogs barking far away. I felt completely helpless. My own daughter had stolen my home, and now she had taken my safe place too. What was she hiding in there? I went back to that dusty box in the closet. I felt like it was the only thing in this whole house that had any truth left in it. I went through the old papers again, hoping to find something, anything that would make sense of this mess. And then I saw it. Tucked inside a folded letter from the bank was another letter from Frank. It was a letter he had written a few months before he passed away. I unfolded it carefully. It wasn't a normal letter. It was full of numbers and dates, written in his messy handwriting. He would write notes like this sometimes when he was working on projects, little codes for himself. But this one was different. It didn't look like a work note. It had dates like May 12th, 2021, and then numbers like 3411-5. There were names too, but they were scribbled. This wasn't a note for a work project. It was a puzzle, a riddle. What was he trying to tell me? I knew he would never hide anything from me, at least I thought he wouldn't. Did this letter have something to do with the photo album? Did it have something to do with Sarah and how she was acting? It was like Frank was still trying to talk to me from the grave, telling me a secret he couldn't say out loud. And I knew I had to figure it out no matter what. I knew I couldn't stay in that house a minute longer. I felt trapped. So I walked out the front door and headed next door to my neighbour Margaret's house. Margaret is a good woman. She's lived on this street in Ohio for 30 years, just like me. I knocked on her door, and when she opened it, she looked at me with wide, worried eyes. "Eleanor, I was just about to call you. I saw you sleeping on the porch this morning." I couldn't hold it in anymore. I started to cry, and Margaret hugged me tight and led me inside. I told her everything, about waking up on the porch, about Sarah's cruel words, and about the locked bedroom door. Margaret listened quietly, and when I was done, she shook her head slowly. "Oh, honey," she said. "I knew something wasn't right. I've seen strange things happening over at your house. Sarah has been acting very strange. She's had people over late at night, in big, fancy cars. They stay for hours. And she's been telling people that the house is going to be hers soon, like permanently. She told the mailman just last week. It sounded like she was in a real hurry to get you out." Hearing it from someone else, someone who wasn't involved, made it all feel so much more real. It wasn't just me being crazy. Sarah really was up to something. I went back to my house that evening, feeling a little braver after talking to Margaret. I needed to confront Sarah about all of this. I found her in the living room sitting on that new sofa, scrolling on her phone. I stood in front of her. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady. "What is going on? Why is my bedroom locked? Why is the house so different? And why are you telling people you're going to own this house soon?" She didn't even look up at first. "I'm just redecorating, Mum. The house needed a new look, and that room is a mess. I'm fixing it up for you." Her voice was calm, almost too calm. Then she looked at me, and her eyes were full of fake tears. "I've just been under so much stress, Mom," she said, her voice cracking. "With Dad gone, everything has been so hard. I'm just trying to make this house a nice place for us to live in. I'm trying to take care of you. I'm doing all of this for you." For a second, just for a second, I almost believed her. She sounded so sad and so tired. I looked at my daughter, the little girl I used to read bedtime stories to, and I wondered if maybe I was wrong about her. Maybe she was just confused and grieving. But then I thought of Margaret's words and the strange photos, and I knew I couldn't trust her. What if this was all just a show? The next morning, I decided to go for a walk to clear my head. As I was walking down the street, I saw a young man with a couple of big dogs. I recognized him from the neighborhood. He walked dogs for a lot of people. He smiled when he saw me. "Hi, Eleanor," he said. "Are these your dogs? They look just like the ones your daughter, Sarah, just got." I shook my head and told him they weren't mine. He looked confused. "That's strange," he said. "Sarah told me they were her new dogs, and that she was so excited because she was about to inherit this big house." My heart dropped. The dog walker didn't know anything about our family problems. He was just repeating what Sarah had told him. She wasn't just telling people she wanted the house, she was telling them it was already hers. This wasn't a joke or a temporary redecorating project. This was a plan. She was so sure she was going to get this house that she was bragging about it to strangers. My mind raced. She must have done something big to think she could just take my home from me. The feeling of helplessness returned, but this time it was mixed with a burning fire. She wouldn't get away with this. I had to find out what she had done and stop her before it was too late. I walked back to my house, the words of the dog walker ringing in my ears. I knew I needed more than just gossip. I needed proof. I remembered that Sarah's laptop was always on the kitchen counter. I knew her password was a simple one, her old cat's name. I went to the kitchen and saw her laptop right there. My hands were shaking a little, but I had to know the truth. I opened the laptop and typed in the password. It worked. I went straight to her email. I scrolled through a few messages, my heart pounding with every click. Then I saw a message from a real estate agent with the subject, "Next steps for the 123 Maple Street property." My stomach dropped. I clicked on it. The email talked about setting up a date for an appraisal and finding buyers. But the worst part was the attachments, documents with my name on them, but I hadn't signed any of them. Sarah had been planning to sell my house, my home, all along. She had a whole plot worked out. The emails showed she had been talking to this agent for weeks, planning to get me out and sell the house as fast as she could. I felt a cold anger build up inside me. It wasn't about love or care or stress like she had claimed. It was all about money. My own daughter was trying to steal my home and sell it right out from under me. As I was reading those terrible emails, I saw one from a financial advisor named Mr. Henderson. The subject said, "Regarding your father's trust fund." My late husband Frank had a trust fund. He never told me about it. This was another secret on top of the strange photo album. My hands trembled as I opened the email. It talked about a large sum of money being put aside for Sarah. But there was a catch. The money would only go to her if she fulfilled a promise. I saw Mr. Henderson's phone number at the bottom of the email. I knew I had to call him. I went into the other room and dialed the number with a shaky hand. When he answered, I told him who I was. He sounded surprised. "Mrs. Miller," he said. "I'm so sorry, I thought you had passed." That's when he explained the big secret. Frank had set up a trust fund for Sarah, but the money was only for her if she promised to take care of me in my old age. It was a condition he had written down. He trusted her to be a good daughter. and he made sure there was a reward for her kindness. The money was a lot, more than I could ever imagine. The whole world went quiet as he said the words. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Frank, my husband, had left my daughter Sarah a fortune, but only if she took care of me. It was all to make sure I was happy and safe. But then the financial advisor, Mr. Henderson, explained what happened next. He said that Sarah had never met the condition. She had never given him proof that she was taking care of me. So, the money, the big pile of money Frank left for her, was gone. It had gone to a different fund, as the will stated. All of that money, all of that security, was lost to her. Suddenly everything made sense. The betrayal wasn't just for money, it was because she had lost the money. She didn't get the trust fund from Frank because she didn't take care of me. Now she was trying to get the house instead. This wasn't just a random, cruel act. It was a plan that went wrong, and now she was trying to fix it. She lost the trust fund because she failed her father's test, and now she was going to take the house instead. The fake tears, the locked room, the lies to the neighbours, it was all because she was desperate. It was all because she was a failed daughter, and it was all because of her greed. The truth was out, and I felt a new strength growing inside me. I knew I couldn't fight Sarah alone. It was time to tell everyone what was happening. I went to the local community centre in our Ohio town, where we have a meeting every month. People were there, people I had known for years. My neighbour Margaret was there too. I stood up and my hands were shaking, but my voice was strong. My name is Eleanor Miller, I said, and I'm here to tell you what my daughter, Sarah, has done. I told them everything. I talked about waking up on the porch, about her cruel words, about the locked bedroom, and about the emails I found that showed her trying to sell my house. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. People gasped. Some had tears in their eyes. They knew me. I was the widow who always brought cookies to the bake sale. It was hard for them to believe my own daughter could do something so heartless. After I finished, a woman named Carol, who I'd known for years, stood up. Eleanor is a good woman, she said. We have to help her. The whole room nodded. Their support made me feel stronger than I had in a long time. It was a powerful feeling to know I wasn't alone. After the meeting, a man I didn't know walked up to me. He was a kind-looking man with grey hair. He introduced himself as Jim Peterson, a lawyer. He said he had been listening to my story and that he was very moved. Mrs. Miller, he said, what your daughter has done is illegal. Forgery, fraud, it's all very serious. I want to help you. I told him I didn't have much money to pay a lawyer. He smiled kindly. Don't you worry about that, he said. This is on me. I want to help you get your home back. You deserve it. I was so thankful I almost started to cry again. Having a lawyer on my side gave me a hope I hadn't felt since all of this began. He told me the first thing we needed to do was get a court order to stop Sarah from doing anything else. He said we had a strong case with the emails and the dog walker's story. It felt like the power was finally shifting. For the first time, I wasn't just a sad old widow. I was a woman with a plan, a woman with a lawyer. Sarah wouldn't get away with this. The game was changing, and I was finally ready to fight back. Mr. Peterson, my new lawyer, was a busy man. He did all his research quickly. He said he found some old papers from a family court case from years ago. They were about my late husband, Frank. And he found a note from Sarah. He told me it was a confession she wrote when she was just a teenager. He read a little bit of it to me. I'm so mad at Mom, she had written. She loves Dad more than me. She never has time for me. I hate her. She doesn't love me. Hearing those words broke my heart all over again. I had no idea Sarah felt that way. I always thought we were close. I thought she was happy. This wasn't just about money. It was about a deep old pain. This wasn't a crime of greed, but a crime of a broken heart. Sarah had felt unloved for years, and I never even knew. My lawyer, Mr. Peterson, said this information would help us understand Sarah better, but it wouldn't change the law. Still, it made me feel so sad. My own daughter had been holding on to all that pain. I still needed to get my house back, but now I knew the true sad story behind all of her terrible actions. It was no longer just about the house. It was about the years of unspoken pain between a mother and a daughter. My lawyer, Mr. Peterson, told me he was moving quickly, and that was a good thing. But the best thing that happened was when my phone rang and I saw a name I hadn't seen in a long time. It was my grandson, Michael. He and his sister, Jessica, hadn't talked to me much since my husband, Frank, passed. They lived far away, and we had just drifted apart. When I answered, Michael's voice was full of hurt and anger. "Grandma, is this true?" he asked. "Did Aunt Sarah really do this to you?" He had seen my story online, and he and Jessica were horrified. "We're so sorry we haven't been in touch," he said. "We're on your side, Grandma. We love you. Sarah has been telling us for months that you were getting sick and that she was taking care of you." I told him I was fine, and that Sarah was lying to them too. It was a wonderful feeling to talk to them again, to know they were on my side. Their support made me feel stronger than I had in a long time. They told me they were going to get in touch with Sarah right away and demand answers. I told them to be careful, but they said they had to do something. For the first time, my own flesh and blood were fighting for me, and that gave me all the hope in the world. My grandson, Michael, is a smart boy. He and his sister Jessica called Sarah together. They told her they had heard about what happened and wanted the truth. Sarah, my daughter, went on and on, trying to make me sound like I was crazy. But Michael was recording the call without her knowing. He asked her questions about the house and the papers, and Sarah got mad. "Fine," she yelled. "She didn't sign the papers, I did. She was getting too old to understand, and I had to do it. The house is mine, and it always should have been." My heart stopped when Michael played the recording for me later. There it was, her own voice, admitting to everything. She had forged my signature. It was proof, real proof, that she had broken the law. My lawyer, Mr. Peterson, was so happy. "This changes everything, Eleanor," he said. "This is a direct confession." He said it was the one piece of evidence we needed to stop her for good. It wasn't just my word against hers anymore. It was her own voice, speaking the truth about her lie. I couldn't believe my own daughter could be so careless, so sure she would get away with it. But her own words were what would finally set me free. With the secret recording, I felt like I was starting to win. I was getting my strength back. I even decided to go look for a few things that had special meaning to me. I was looking for a beautiful silver necklace that my grandmother had given me. She had brought it with her when she came to America from Ireland. It was one of my most cherished things, a real family heirloom. I looked everywhere in the house, in closets, in drawers, and under the beds. But it was nowhere to be found. I went and confronted Sarah. "Where is my necklace?" I asked her. "The one with the tiny shamrock on it?" She looked away and wouldn't meet my eyes. "I sold it," she said, her voice quiet. "I needed the money." That's when I knew for sure. This wasn't about a broken heart. This wasn't about a simple mistake. This was about cold, hard greed. The necklace was worth some money, but it was worth so much more to me. It was a symbol of my family, of my history, of my life. By selling it, Sarah was showing me that she didn't care about our family or our memories. She only cared about herself. The necklace was just a thing to sell. This wasn't a crime of anger, but a crime of a broken soul. It was a cruel, selfish act that proved my daughter was gone forever. My lawyer, Mr. Peterson, was a real bulldog. He didn't stop looking for answers. He found one of Sarah's old boyfriends, a man named Mark, who lived a few towns over. Mr. Peterson called him and told him what was happening. Mark was shocked. He said he had to tell the truth. He told the lawyer that he broke up with Sarah because she had a big problem. He said she was deeply in debt from a secret gambling addiction. She had a lot of credit cards she was using, and the debt was getting bigger and bigger. She even stole money from him to pay some of her bills. When Mr. Peterson told me this, a part of me felt sad for my daughter, but a bigger part of me felt sick to my stomach. This explained everything. The mysterious men in the fancy cars, the desperation, her need to sell the house so fast. It was all about money. She wasn't trying to hurt me for a childhood grudge. She was doing it because she was in trouble. Big trouble. My daughter's life was a lie. She was not the hard-working, normal girl I thought she was. She was a woman in a lot of pain, and she was willing to do anything to get out of it, even if it meant hurting her own mother. The next day, my lawyer, Mr. Peterson, arranged a meeting with Sarah. She came into his office looking angry and sure of herself. She thought she was going to get away with it. She sat down and stared at me with that same cold look in her eyes. "This is a waste of time, Mum," she said. "The house is mine. You're just confused." My lawyer just smiled a little bit. He placed the papers on the table. The forged documents with my name signed on them. Sarah's face turned white. Then he played the recording from Michael. "She didn't sign the papers. I did." Sarah's own voice filled the room. Her face crumpled. She started to cry, but they weren't the fake tears she used on me. These were real. "That's not fair," she whispered. "You don't understand." But I did understand. I understood her greed and her lies. The proof was all there. Mr. Peterson looked at her calmly. "Sarah," he said, "this is fraud. This is a crime. You have two choices. Give your mother her house back, or we go to court, and you go to jail." She just sat there, defeated. Her whole plan had fallen apart in just a few minutes, right in front of my eyes. Just when I thought it was over, my story started to get bigger. A local news reporter had heard about my community meeting and my legal fight. He asked me if he could do a story on me. I talked to my lawyer, Mr. Peterson, and he said it was a great idea. So I sat in front of a camera in my neighbour's living room and told my story again. But this time, I told it to thousands of people. I talked about how my own daughter pushed me out of my home. I told them about her cruel words, her lies, and the secret recording. The reporter was kind and he told my story with respect. After the news story aired, my phone started ringing off the hook. People were calling to offer me help. My story was on Facebook, Twitter, and all over the internet. It was a big deal. The whole town was talking about it. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was a public fight. Sarah's private shame was now for the whole world to see. I felt a little scared, but also strong. My fight wasn't a secret anymore, and that made me feel like I couldn't lose. But what would Sarah do now that her secret was exposed for everyone to see? The news story went everywhere, and Sarah saw it. She was humiliated. The reporter even tried to get a comment from her. She was outside our house, and he walked right up to her with his camera. "Sarah," he said, "do you have anything to say about the accusations from your mother?" For a second, she just stared at him. Then she completely lost it. The calm act was gone. Her face twisted up, and she started yelling at him. "This is not her house. This is my house. She's old and she's crazy. She doesn't know what she's doing." She even started yelling at her own family, my grandchildren Michael and Jessica, who had called her out on the lie. "They're all against me," she screamed at the camera. She looked so unhinged. She looked like a complete stranger. It was a terrible sight to see, but a part of me felt a kind of peace. The world was seeing the real Sarah, the one who had pushed me out and tried to steal my life. Her lies were all out in the open. Her public meltdown was all over the news, and everyone saw it. I knew then that she had no more power over me. She had nothing left to hide. The truth had finally won. With the news story and the secret recording, my lawyer, Mr. Peterson, had everything he needed. He went to court and got a judge to sign a paper. It was a court order. It said that the house was legally mine again, and that Sarah had to leave. He called me with the good news. "Eleanor, it's done," he said. "The house is yours again. The court order is official. Sarah has to give you the keys and your belongings." I couldn't speak. I just held the phone, and tears of joy ran down my face. My fight was over. I had won. A few days later, Mr. Peterson and I went to the house. Sarah was there, looking defeated. Mr. Peterson gave her the paper from the court. She read it and just nodded. She looked at me, and her eyes were empty. "It was never about you," she said, her voice a whisper. "It was always about Dad." I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. She handed over a box of my things and gave me the spare key. She got into her car with the dogs and just drove away. The long, painful battle was finally over. The house was mine again. I stood on the front porch with my keys in my hand. It was a warm evening in Ohio, and the air smelled like cut grass. I opened the front door, and a feeling of peace washed over me. The house still felt a little strange, with Sarah's new furniture and the dog toys everywhere. But it was my house. I walked into the living room and sat down on a part of the new sofa. I didn't feel angry anymore, just tired. I was home. It felt so good. I walked through all the rooms and I just kept saying to myself, "I'm home. I'm home." I looked at the locked bedroom door, the one that had been a wall between me and my life for so long. Now I had the key. I opened the door, and my heart felt full. There were my clothes, my old books, and the little picture of Frank on my nightstand. It was all still there. The room smelled like me, like home. I sat on my bed and just cried. They were tears of relief. I had been through so much, but I had made it. My home was a mess, but it was my mess. My family was broken, but my heart was starting to heal. I was finally back where I belonged. A few days after she left, Sarah came back to the house. I was sitting in my living room and I saw her car pull up. My heart started beating fast. She came to the door and this time she was crying for real. Her makeup was a mess and her hair was all over the place. She looked so small and broken. "Mum," she said, her voice shaking, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far." She put her head in her hands and cried. "I was just so lost. The debt, the gambling. I didn't know what to do. I was desperate. She begged me to forgive her. She said she had made a terrible mistake. She said she was ready to change. For a second, I felt that old motherly love in my heart, the need to comfort my child. But then I remembered waking up on the porch in the cold. I remembered her telling me that the dogs needed the bed more than I did. The pain was still too fresh. "Sarah," I said, my voice quiet but firm, "it's too late. You didn't just make a mistake. You tried to steal my life. You tried to sell my home. You broke my heart into a million little pieces." I closed the door softly. I still loved her, but I couldn't trust her. The years of lies and pain had built a wall between us that might never come down. The next morning, I decided I was going to start fresh. I went to the local hardware store to get a new lock for my bedroom door. It was a simple thing, a small thing, but it felt big. When I got home, I put the new lock on myself. I took off the old one and threw it in the trash. The old lock was a symbol of her control over me, of her being able to lock me out of my own life. This new lock was my way of taking back my space, my life. It was a way of saying, "This is mine now. You can't hurt me here anymore." I went through the whole house and started to pack up Sarah's things. I put them all in boxes and left them on the porch for her. I wanted every part of her gone from my home. It was hard work, but with every box I sealed, I felt a little bit of the weight come off my shoulders. I was cleaning up my life, not just my house. The old house was full of bad memories now, but I was going to fill it with new, good ones. It was a new chapter, and I was going to make it a good one. This house was my home, and I was finally ready to live in it again. After I had packed up all of Sarah's things, I went back to the dusty box in the closet to get some of my old papers. I was going through them one last time when a folded piece of paper fell out from a stack of old magazines. It was another letter from Frank, but it was sealed, and the words "Don't open until you need me" were written on the front. I felt a chill run down my spine. I opened it and started to read. This was the real secret. the biggest one of all. Frank wrote that the second family in the photos was not his other family. They were the family of a young man he worked with. The man was in big debt and was about to lose his home. Frank, being the good man he was, paid off the man's debt for him. But he never told me because he didn't want me to worry. The pictures were just his way of making sure they were okay. He knew I would be mad that he didn't tell me, so he wrote this letter. He wrote that he loved me more than anything. My heart felt like it would burst with relief. My Frank was not a liar after all. The greatest lie of all, the secret I had carried in my heart for so long, was a lie I had told myself. He was a good man, and now I knew the truth. Frank's letter told me everything. He went on to explain the trust fund that the financial advisor had told me about. It was a secret, but not the way I thought. He had left a lot of money for Sarah to help her start her life, a sort of family gift. But in the letter, he said the money was not just for her, it was also meant for the young family he had been helping. He wanted Sarah to share the money with them, to help them build a new life just like he had. He wanted her to learn about kindness and helping others. Sarah never knew this. She thought the money was all for her, and she lost it because she didn't follow his rule to take care of me. The irony of it all was so powerful. By being selfish and trying to steal my house, she lost a huge amount of money that was meant for her, a gift from her father. And she also lost the chance to learn what it means to be a good person and to share with others. My husband, Frank, was a wise and good man. He didn't just give money. He tried to teach a lesson. Sarah's greed had not only cost her my love, but also the true gift of her father's trust. The truth of the trust fund was the final puzzle piece in this whole sad story. I sat down in my living room and picked up a photo of my late husband, Frank. He was smiling, wearing his favourite sweater, holding a fishing pole. He looked so happy. I looked at his face, at his kind eyes, and I felt a sense of closure I hadn't felt since he passed. I had spent so long thinking he had a secret life and wondering what he was hiding from me. But he wasn't hiding anything. He was just being the man I always knew he was. A good man, a kind man, a man who always tried to help others. I looked at his picture and whispered, "Thank you, Frank." The truth was finally out. I knew everything now. The photos, the trust fund, the notes. It all made sense. My heart still hurt, but it was a different kind of hurt now. It wasn't the pain of betrayal from my husband. It was the sadness of knowing my daughter had lost so much and didn't even realize it. My fight was over, and I could finally begin to heal. The sadness of my broken family was still there, but now it was mixed with the peace of a secret finally revealed. I'm sitting on my front porch now. It's late evening, and the air is cool. It's the same porch where this whole nightmare began. But now it feels different. I am not a victim anymore. I am a survivor. I went through a terrible time, but I got my home back, and I found out the truth about my life. I'm going to fix up this house, get a new chair, and put my own pictures back on the wall. I'm going to make new memories here. I am happy now, and I am safe. I am home. I look out at the quiet neighbourhood, and a small part of me feels a little sad about my daughter Sarah. But I know she has her own path now. I have my own path too, and my story isn't over. There are new people to meet and new things to learn. I'm no longer just a widow living in the past. I'm Eleanor, and my life is just getting started. I can't wait to see what comes next.